Hello, everybody. How y'all doing today? Did everyone survive the eclipses? I mean, the solar eclipse. We still have the lunar eclipse to go. And that solar eclipse was something. I hope that you enjoyed it. I love eclipses because things come up, interesting things. Life is so boring when there's no scandal or drama. I know all you fixed signs are sitting there saying, "What are you talking about? Shut up." We just like it to go on the way it is, no waves, but not me. It gets boring for me when there ain't nothing going on. But there is a whole lot going on, and we're here to talk about that. What the hell is going on in the heavens, and what is up your anus, which is totally perfect and apropos for Scorpio season, as it does rule the anal regions. And it was a Scorpio that coined the term anal retention. I'm sure of it. Welcome, welcome to AstroLunaChick's Guide to the Universe. I am your hostess, Susan, aka AstroLunaChick, and we're talking about astrology today. I am recording this on Sunday. I'm not quite sure when I'll get it uploaded, but hopefully it will be today. And as I am speaking, it is Sunday, October 30th, in the year of 2022. Today is a 1 day, which is awesome because yesterday was a 9, so that's the end of something. And today is a 1, and this is cool. I don't think I've actually done my show on a 1 day. So welcome to 1 day. You thought it was Sunday. It's not Sunday, it's 1 day. Yeehaw, little doggies. So I'm so glad that you could join me here today as I speak about astrology. And just to let you know, if you're looking for me out on the interwebs, I can be found on Twitter. Been having a lot of fun there since Elon took over. It's like the Wild West again, and everyone's pulling out their insulting memes, and I love it. And you can also find me on Instagram and Facebook. I have a Facebook page, although I don't really get a lot of action on Facebook. It's kind of disheartening. Like, I wonder actually if people see my posts and they're not interested in astrology and they just scroll by. I mean, on my personal page, like I tried the whole interacting thing, like interact on people's posts, and then they'll see your posts, and then, hopefully they'll reciprocate. I don't know. I've been on the fucking Facebook for so long, and I feel like I have an audience of like 3 that I regularly interact with, and it kind of sucks because I feel like I'm in a box. So I don't know what to do about that. Same with Twitter, really, literally. Like, I definitely have my hardcore peeps that I hang with, and that's totally cool too. But maybe I'm just a little fish in a big pond. Anyway, I'm here on the YouTubes, and thank you so much for liking and subscribing. I have seen you, and I don't know who you are, but you're out there and you're listening, and that's all that matters. It's kind of cool to see like the subscribership sprout up like that, and the likes, a few comments, and thanks for the dopamine. I can use all I can get. So if you're on YouTube, you're seeing my black and white filter, and I thought it was cool, for the Halloween holiday season, the noir, as it were. And if you're just listening to me, welcome. Maybe you're listening on Spotify because I'm there. And maybe you're listening on etalk.tv. That was pretty fun last week. If you missed the live show, we had a chat room going. I did live readings. I was not aware. I thought maybe there was a phone in line, but there wasn't. But that's cool. There might be in the future. And if I could get my tech shit together, I might figure out how to do that. I'm still struggling with that. In fact, I was just struggling with these headphones and the microphone. Oh my God. I don't even know if it's working at that point. Like, I didn't even care. It's like, fuck it. I'm just doing it. I spend so much time with preparation, trying to get ready, trying to make it perfect for everybody. Not really for me, because most people don't give a shit. It's me. I've been perfecting my craft for so many years, and finally just deciding I just got to get out there and do it. Just do it, because for the most part, no one cares. Except for my 3 subscribers. The 3 people who like my posts. And to the rest of you who are just sitting there lurking, what's up with you? You don't want to show your face? You don't want me to know that you're listening? That's what I have to say. Okay. It's cool. It's cool. Not everybody likes, not everybody shares, not everybody subscribes, but those who do are very dear to my heart and always have my prayers and blessings and gratitude. And I don't mean to sound like a grudgy kind of person, but like, fuck it, I'm in that kind of mood. It's Scorpio season. You're going to get my Scorpio side today. The gloves are off. It's not Libra season anymore. People are not like trying to be liked and trying to be nice and trying to keep, status quo balance and not rock the boat or make any waves with anybody. Not trying to be friends with everybody. That's Scorpio. And I'm here for it. I am here for it. So, yeehaw, let's get going. So, as I'm speaking, the moon is in Capricorn, my favorite sign. I'm not biased. No, I'm not. I'm a Capricorn. In case you didn't know, I am a Capricorn. So, the moon in Capricorn, yeah, the moon's in Capricorn. It's really, I feel for people who have moon in Capricorn, because it's not, I mean, like, we do know how to have fun, but there's such a sense of like responsibility and the work that goes along with it, and trying to achieve something, and being, like, really sometimes very self-critical, like it's not good enough. And we don't feel good if we're not like accomplishing something. Like, I do not care what it is. I need to feel like I accomplished something every fucking day. And when I look at my life accomplishment goals, I get really, really frustrated, because as a Capricorn, speaking as a Capricorn, I'm the Capricorn moon, so I think I can. it's hard because I think a lot of people don't realize the high standards and the burden that a Capricorn energy puts on themselves. So emotionally, with a Capricorn moon, I could see where people might be someone who has a Capricorn moon might be really hard on themselves, you know, and maybe feeling like they'll be loved and get emotional gratification in their relationships based on their accomplishments and the work that they do, success that they've achieved, I suppose. Um, I'm just imagining what that might be like. And I'm thinking about actually a few people with Capricorn moons that I know. They're very status, work conscious, very focused on whatever their goals are that they're trying to achieve. And Capricorn moon can be kind of depressive and negative and pessimistic. It can be. And, you know, at the moon in Capricorn, we can all kind of have a little bit of that going on because wherever, doesn't matter where our moon is or what our signs are, our planets, placements, whatever sign the moon is in, we're all kind of like working that vibe to some degree. And of course, if you have planets or points in the sign that the moon is moving through, that'll be more highlighted for you. But to some degree, everyone's being affected by it. So I've been very affected by the Capricorn moon past couple of days, today, yesterday. Not so much yesterday as today. I mean, today as yesterday. I guess coming off of the eclipse in Scorpio and then having Mercury just moved into Scorpio. I'm going to share my screen in a minute, but just bear with me. Chit chat a bit. Yeah, yesterday Mercury moved into Scorpio from Libra, so very different energy. You know, in Libra, our communications, our thoughts, our ideas, the information that we were processing was more where we were trying to create a balance and harmony. And so we're more likely in our interactions to be a little bit more agreeable, you know, a we orientation versus me, just me, or just you, more of a we, cooperation, a little lighter than a Scorpio Mercury. Because now in Scorpio, it's about the depth of emotions. And since the sun and Venus went into Scorpio, and then we had the Scorpio eclipse with the moon, sun, and Venus together, very, very, very much about our relationships, our values, the types of relationships that we're attracting, and trying to get to the depths of an understanding or a processing. There's a lot of, it's a huge psychological component now that we're full in on Scorpio with Mercury there. Because the sun, which is like the core essence, the soul, where we're being led, you know, because the sun is like the path, right? Or the light on the path. And Venus, what we value, what we're attracting, the sensuality part, and our relationships, obviously, things of value, material resources, etc. Now in Scorpio, right? So the mind was still on keeping that balance, being diplomatic, you know. Libra's also an air sign, so Mercury, air, Mercury, the mind, right? And Libra, I'm very sociable. Now the energy starts to withdraw a bit, draw deeper inward. And Scorpio is a private sign, so we will perhaps tend to withdraw a little bit from our larger social circles and maybe only keep people around us that we really trust, because Scorpio themes are about intimacy and trust. So a lot can come up around those themes. So intimacy, our obvious things we go to are talking about sex and sensuality, especially with Venus here, wanting to merge deeply with someone, physically, emotionally, mentally, now that Mercury is there. And it's not just about our sexual relationships, it's also about our friendships, all relationships, and who do we trust? Like, who do we feel good enough around to be vulnerable? And I found myself grappling with something that was revealed to me with this Scorpio eclipse. I don't want to say revealed because I kind of knew it. It was not a big shocker to me, but it came up for me to really look at and say, you need to evaluate this particular association that I might not be on the same page with that person. And it kind of became clear to me because I saw some things. And it's just funny how, maybe you can relate to that, where like something you didn't really realize or you weren't really thinking about is suddenly called to your attention. Some would say by spirit, God calls your attention to this to say, you need to look at this. And where Scorpio is concerned, it is about safety, security, self-protection, because Scorpio's lesson is about who do we trust, who do we allow to be close to us, and who are we allowing ourselves to be vulnerable around, because people who get close to us can hurt us. And there's an element of trust and loyalty that comes up with Scorpio. So in my situation, I was kind of looking at it in terms of Libra versus Scorpio, because I do have some Libra placements, and coincidentally, I was dealing with a Libra. It dealt with a Libra, and I know that person to be very sort of, I don't know, like, yeah, typical Libra, not wanting to make any waves, don't rock the boat, want to be friends with everybody, be cool with everybody. And I was having a discussion with someone else recently who, funny, is a Libra, but has a lot of Libra placements. And I was discussing the situation. They had a similar situation where it was like, we both have the same viewpoint on this, where if you've dealt with this, where you have someone who is close to you that just completely betrays you, stabs you in the back, you know whatever. um and then you have other friends, mutual acquaintances, who are like, oh, well, they didn't do that to me, so I could still be cool with that person. And my friend and I, who were discussing it, both said, oh, hell no. Hell the fuck no, you can't. I mean, that's where you got to realize that people have different values. And my values and my friends' values are that a loyal friend is not going to be cool with anybody who screws you over. If they care about you, if they care about your feelings, um, they're not going to be okay with someone hurting you, right? And that kind of goes back to, I guess, what I would say is the way we both had grown up in families where there was no protection really from the mother and father. There was no empathy from the family unit for what you were going through. So I guess we've both had, attracted experiences to go through that with other people in adult life to help us to recognize that particular psychological dynamic with people, and not like just have a better boundary, right? But if you didn't grow up with that kind of issue, you might not recognize it in people. And like, I wanted to give this person the benefit of the doubt, because I was like, well, maybe you don't really realize and recognize those type of people in your life, because I do kind of see them interacting with some people that I would consider to be unhealthy, but I'm not going to judge. But I've also found myself in a similar situation with that person that I am speaking about, where they had a situation with someone, a mutual friend that I wasn't that close to, that they were very hurt by, and I stood by that person. And I didn't continue to have some kind of friendship, or, you know, I wasn't really cool with that person, because now I see who you are. I see if you could do that, you're going to do that to me. I don't want those kind of people in my life. I feel for my friends, for what they went through. That's called empathy. So now I'm looking at it from the same situation, and I'm realizing, okay, well, I look at this from all different angles. For me, I look at it as a self-protection thing, that that person who is still cool with the people that hurt me, and let me tell you, it was bad. It was one of the worst things that I went through, I think, because I've had some shitty stuff done to me. Whatever, we all have, but like, this was like some really next level fucked up shit. Like, both of the, it's whatever. Like, I think those people were like perfect for one another, and I introduced them, and then they both proceeded to like, uh and now they're both gone, but they were both very toxic and not people that I needed in my life. But then I have this other person who is like cool with both of them. Like, are you serious? So this is a Scorpio eclipse type revelation. For me, I have it in the seventh house. So it was a deeper understanding of a relationship dynamic that I could recognize as toxic and not healthy, because in the past, I probably would have overlooked it and said, I'm not going to judge them for whoever, whatever. But no, I know who I am, and I know what kind of friends that I want to have. and the type of people I want to have around me. I want the people around me to have similar values that I do. Okay. That's it. End of story. And the older I get, the more I know that I, first of all, don't need a whole lot of people in my life. And I don't want to keep people in my life who are potentially going to wreak havoc and drama and talk about me behind my back, because that is like just, that's the worst. That's the worst because, you know, in Scorpio fashion, I had to deeply consider all the things that this person could go back and say to those people that hurt me. Um, and knowing how toxic those, if they're just not normal people, they're not fucking normal people. These are toxic people who who create drama and will specifically go out of their way to hurt people and plot and lie about people to get what they want, to triangulate and manipulate. So I'm not going to throw labels on them. You all know what it is. But this came up with the Scorpio eclipse. And it's what I was talking about last week about the asteroid Rhadamanthus, the judge of the souls in the netherworld. And it's this concept of something outside of ourselves judging, like the divine judge or a heavenly judge or whatever you want to call it, but like a very harsh judgment. And sometimes we're shown things and we have to make a judgment, because if we don't, it will harm us or cause us pain. And that would be us also ignoring our intuition, which is something that we really have to look very closely at in Scorpio season, because Scorpio energy picks up on that subtle vibe that we're not aware of. So that was my eclipse story, and I'm sticking to it because I've learned, when I've done the Libra thing, which is my South Node. And this is why I talk a lot about relationships, and because that's my perspective. I have the North Node in Aries in the first house. So I am meant to focus on myself and my own independence and stand up for myself, be a warrior, fight, whatever. And my South Node is in Libra. And that's like been there, done that, given myself away to relationships, put other people's needs before myself. And for me also, getting stuck in the South Node for me was me looking at people and saying, yeah, well, I see their flaws and I see the problem, but I'm just going to overlook it, like I want to keep the balance, and I will give them that grace of, yeah, they're not perfect, or, being codependent, not putting my needs first, all that kind of Libra stuff, not rocking the boat, not being judgmental when I should have been. That's other things in my chart too. But I also do have Scorpio placements. So when it's all said and done, I do see it. So when I get stuck in my South Node in my 7th house, and then things start to progress into Scorpio and get a little deeper, and where we're talking about trust, and loyalty and fidelity. I've had a lot of problems with that. So I've learned, the hard way. Sometimes I knew it was going to be an issue and I just fucking did it anyway. Or I just said, all right, like I'm going into this knowing what I know, and I'm just going to keep my eyes open and consider everything as a karmic lesson, cause and effect. And for me, relationships have been my greatest area of soul growth because of the way my chart is set up and whatever. And because it's part of my path. I mean, it's just the way it is. And I talk a lot about relationships and I deal a lot from a relational standpoint when I talk about astrology, because to me, relationships are everything. If you don't get along with people in life, it's very difficult. If you don't know how to handle your relationships, if you don't know how to discern who the right people are to have around you, and we learn about ourselves through our relationships with other people. So it's important. It's very important. So what we're learning right now with this eclipse is a lot about things we didn't know about the people around us, about ourselves, and about our relationships. That's that. The eclipse conjunct Venus in Scorpio. It's like, all right, it's time to go to a deeper level. There's some things you need to know. I like my beats fast and my bass down low. Sorry, I couldn't help it. It's a good song. Anyway, so yeah, Capricorn moon, and Capricorn is about maturity and wisdom, and it's ruled by Saturn, and Saturn has some tough lessons and tests and obstacles for us to overcome. And I should know, being a Capricorn with the fucking hard aspects to my Saturn. So everything's about everything is about a test, an obstacle, a struggle. There's always something, but it's all about how we deal with it. So I've been babbling for long enough. It's time for me to share my screen. I'm getting down to the Scorpio nitty gritty. I think I know you well enough. I will share my screen. Is there a further like a real friend? It's like that saying, a true friend will tell you when you have a booger hanging out of your nose. That's a real friend. Or if you've stepped on toilet paper and it's trailing, stuck on your shoe as you're coming out of the bathroom. Okay, this is my screen today. The screen I am sharing with you. Capricorn rising, Capricorn moon, Mercury, Sun, Venus, South Node, all in Scorpio. Scorpio is a sign that rules the organs of elimination. So Scorpio does have to do with the processing and elimination of waste and toxic material. In this case, it's mental, Mercury, ego, Sun, and our relationships, our values, our love and how we love with Venus. And we've got the South Node in Scorpio. South Node is, by its very nature, like the butt of the snake, the elimination of the snake. The snake. Why do I say it's the snake? Well, in ancient astrology, they considered the nodes of the moon to be the head of the serpent, which is the north node, and the tail of the serpent, which is the south node. So obviously, it represents points in the chart that are dealing with a influx of energy, inflow and outflow, right? So what we're eliminating, what comes from the past, what we need to release, and what we could consider to be a loss. And there's a loss coming. There's a big loss coming. Because as we go through the week, we've got Venus first, which is relationship, money, love, females, art, beauty, everything that Venus can represent, physical resources, commodities. There's something that we're going to have to let go of. So when it comes to the nodes and eclipses, we don't have a choice. It's going, gone. So let it go. Very hard with Scorpio and all fixed signs to let things go. But that is the lesson of Scorpio. Scorpio is about attachment, okay? Taurus, the opposite sign, is also about attachment, but Taurus deals with physicality, tangible things, things that can be perceived with the senses, touch, taste, smell, sight, hearing, okay? We have attachment in the physical, but Scorpio is about the attachment emotionally that forms. So emotionally, we're going to have to let go of something, and it might be, kind of difficult if we're not the one letting go, if it's not our choice. But if we're aware of it, let it be. If it's financial, then we have to deal with our issues around finances, money, resources, and maybe letting some of our value systems, our values and our attitudes towards, let's say, money or relationships, things that we're attached to, sex, intimacy, all those things regarding Venus and Scorpio. There is some kind of release that is happening, something we need to let go of, or even something that could be coming up from the past, either a past pattern, a past person, it could be, perhaps, could be. Now, Pluto and Mars both rule the Scorpio South Node. And as you can see here in the chart, Mars just went retrograde today. So things are about to get funky, hopefully in a good way. But, you got to remember to take out the psychic trash. You got to deal with your own shadow shit. Otherwise, Pluto and Mars are you're going to have a problem, let's say, with these two things, with these two planets. Will cause some issues, especially with that Mars in retrograde. That's going to get funky. Mars is out of bounds. And if you've been playing along, Mars is OOB, out of bed, out of bounds. It's acting erratically, uncharacteristically. I read something, I would credit the website and the author, but I'm not sure who it was and where I saw it, but describing or likening out of bounds planets as scofflaws. Now, a scofflaw was considered, well, is a person who didn't abide by the law, when people were just like, the law itself was just ridiculous. It didn't make sense. So they're like, we're just not going to pay attention. So they're breaking the law because the law doesn't make sense. Just in a nutshell. It's not like, it was a little bit more intricate than that. But basically, not obeying the rules. The planet itself, in the way that it functions, is not obeying the rules when it's out of bounds. So, when you look at times where it's like, holy crap, there's so much weird stuff going on. Sometimes it's retrogrades, but sometimes it's that planet is just wackadoodle because it's out of bounds. Mars is out of bounds. It started last week, and it's going to be this way, like, I think until January. Well, Mars is retrograde also. So anything having to do with Mars, men, assertiveness, aggressiveness, anger, taking action, our motives for doing things, Mars action, what's the motive behind it? It's in Gemini. So it is about our mental processes and our ideas and our ways of thinking. So Mars in Gemini is the actions based on our motives, which aren't always clear with Mars in retrograde, first of all, and it's also making a square, which is not, it made a square to Neptune, which was like, okay, what do I do? Which way should I go? And it's a little bit separated right now. It's not that tight, but it's going to come back again. And so we might be feeling that whole thing. But it's also good to look at our motives, look at other people's motives. And we're doing it on a deeper level. So whereas before Mercury went into Scorpio, when it was in Libra, there was, I don't know, maybe a little bit of semblance of balance and diplomacy and, a lot of like wanting to be social, wanting to connect. It's different now with Mercury in Scorpio. People's motives, their thoughts, their ideas, the things that they say are going to be a little bit more underhanded, could be sneaky and treacherous, but it can be just being cautious and self-protective and calculating in the sense of, I need to watch my steps. That's what's going on here in Scorpio season. And there's a lot that's going to come out, a lot, as we move through the week. But yesterday and today, the moon is supporting the South Node from Capricorn to Scorpio. That's a sextile. It's supportive. So it's like, all right, I know what has to be done. I know what I need to do. I need to get rid of or emotions that need to be processed. It's more like with Moon and Capricorns, like kind of like facing some reality about something and being mature about it and gaining wisdom, being able to deeply analyze something psychologically, that's the Scorpio, and emotionally processing it from a standpoint of, well, life goes on, suck it up, get to work. Don't let it derail you. That's me today, for sure. Yeah. Anyway, I mean, not to I'm always a little cautious about talking about myself and my, things in my personal life that I'm going through. But I think it's actually helpful because I think it's something that a lot of people do experience. So, using myself as an example and how I've, handled certain things um, and that from a standpoint of having to weed people out of my life, people that I thought were friends, I thought supported me, I thought, really, really cared about me. And then seeing the shadow side of their personality, and realizing, oh, you know what? That person actually has some judgments against me, where to my face, they seem to be okay with certain things, but then I find that, well, they really have a different opinion about some things. And, or, or just jealousy, resentment, um, confronting people and not letting it fester. And just, I guess the learning that has come from that, and that it's not good to keep people in your life that really don't support you, are not a loyal friend, don't have empathy, let's say, for the things that you're going through and show loyalty towards you, or talk behind your back, all of those things. Or that harbor resentment and judgments against you. You can't ignore these things. Relationships are too important. It's too important in this life for our success to have anybody undermining us, anybody in our life that is there, that is not on team you. I've had to learn that. North, North Node, South Node, first house, seventh house issues. Hashtag. So, where was I going with that? Yeah, I guess apologizing or giving, just giving an explanation as to why I talk about the things that I do. And I don't really care. Yeah, whatever. So, there's a supportive moon today for processing these things, working towards the North Node. We've got the waxing moon. We are working towards the full moon and the North Node, which is where we're going, what we're building our stability, our resources, practical, tangible, and dealing with the areas in life that are changing for us. So, Sunday, one day, Sunday, fun day. So the moon is supporting Uranus here. Uranus is bringing shakeups and change. It will create situations in our life that might be a little bit chaotic or shocking at times, just sudden changes. But the reason for this is because we're being prepared for the future, and there are things shaking all over the earth. Big, big jolts coming. Capricorn moon. I like it. It's great. The moon is like, I don't know, just a little bit off of my Mercury. So my mind is on target. And, Capricorn does have to do with the past. So does the moon. And learning from the past. It is also about the structure of our life and our achievement. So it's definitely a good day to check in and say, where are we at? Where are we going? How far have we come? What have we learned? What have you learned? If I've learned anything, it is that I don't need anybody and I do need people at the same time. I don't, yeah, I know. It's like a paradox. I need people. We all need people. But at the same time, at the end of the day, it comes down to us, right? Just us and those like us. Damn you. What? All right, moving on. Tomorrow, Monday, is Halloween, October 31st, and it is a 2-day. So on the 1-day Sunday, we're thinking about us. And at the end of the day, that's what we come back to. That's who I come home to. That's who I go to bed with. Me. It starts and ends with me. Tomorrow, who knows who I'll be dealing with. But tomorrow, it'll be about the self and the other because that's 2. Okay, so here in the 1, we are given a new beginning because we get a new cycle every 9 days. And whatever is going on is what we're going to be sitting with in a sense, because we're working with cycles within cycles for 9 days. So tomorrow, the 2, October 31st, happy Halloween, happy Samhain. I love this time of year. It always feels so mysterious. I can feel the veil thinning, and it's going to be very thin. I mean, it is always this year, but I think with Venus in Scorpio and hitting the South Node, maybe there could be an element of communicating or being very aware of those who are passed on. I always feel a little bit on the fence about trying to communicate with the dead. I grew up in a fundamentalist Christian home that was verboten. Actually, before we all converted, my mother used to do the Ouija board. And it's interesting because I was only 2 years old, and my mom and her friends would do the Ouija board in our apartment. And I remember her doing it and not feeling okay about it. I'm 2 years old. I don't know anything about this stuff, but I don't know. It didn't feel good to me. I was scared. There was something that made me feel highly uncomfortable. And I remember her telling me, no, it's okay. Don't worry about it. And I don't know. I think she wanted me to go in the room where they were doing it. Because I remember being in the living room and there was another room, I guess, where they were doing the Ouija board. And I remember her saying to me, it's okay, you can go in there. And me feeling like, hell no, I want nothing to do with this. Where does that come from? I don't know. I didn't know anything about it, right? I'm 2. And my little 2-year-old self said, there's something not right here. Don't do it. Don't go anywhere near it. I instinctively knew. Now, what I understand today about the Ouija board, I now know that I understand why my intuition, my little 2-year-old gut said, don't, because I was very sensitive. Maybe I would have picked up or drawn in something dark, perhaps. because I don't feel like it's an evil thing. I feel like it's a neutral thing. If you know how to use it, perhaps it's cool. I also definitely believe in some people in this life have certain like jurisdiction over things. And, if somebody works as a medium and they communicate with people on the other side and entities, they're sanctioned to do so. If you walk outside of what I, would consider to be your gifting and dabble and you don't know what you're doing, whether it be with psychicism or the occult, whatever, mediumship, uh, magic even, um, you don't know what you're doing, you're going to get into trouble. And so the Ouija board being a doorway, a portal for the other side, you don't really know what's coming unless you know what you're doing and you practice certain things for protection. Then you know what? Have at it. Um, it's not my thing. I don't think like I'm really here for that. So I'm just like in awe of anybody who is here for that. And if I need somebody to work on that, like I'm not a plumber. I'm not gonna go like replace my toilet. I don't know what I'm doing. You call a plumber, you know, people who specialize in these things. And that is perfectly cool. But I wonder with Scorpio energy here, um, if we might be a little bit more attuned, let's say, to certain things. On a, obviously, if you have Scorpio placements in your chart, this is going to ramp up your attunement and um, because transits will amplify that. So that's all very interesting. Um, I have a friend who is actually who does that sort of thing. She's very good at it. I mean, she's just natural. It just happens to her, and she has, I think, done certain practices also that would make her a little bit more attuned. But it's a natural gift, and it's interesting because she told me about a relative of hers way, like from like I want to say, I don't know, the 1800s. We're talking about a actual historical figure who was a relative who came through and communicated with her. And we had talked a while back about our heritage, our lineage, um, our ancestors, and who we're related to. And we both have notable figures, historical figures in our um, family lineage. And I told her who I was related to. And she said, "Oh my God, this person came through to me." And he wasn't able to speak, but I knew who he was. And I just thought, wow, that is so incredible because she and I are friends. We actually have the same degree of moon, which is very funny. Um, and I think we're going to I'm going to look at the charts of both of our ancestors. I did it briefly, and they actually have some connections. So I wonder if they know one another on the other side. It's probable because they're historical figures. And um, I just imagine that they all know one another on the other side, but it's interesting. And so, of course, I had to look up certain asteroids that are associated with her relative and my relative. And oh my God. Anyway, long story short, we're going to have a little session. We're going to try to have a chat with our peeps on the other side. So that's my Scorpio season project. But just to kind of like reiterate with Scorpio and the veil being thin, I mean, that's the kind of thing that we're called to during this time. It's the exploration of the other side, the occult side of life, occult meaning hidden, the hidden side of life. And Scorpio is the sign that deals with life and death and rebirth. Death and rebirth. Mostly death. But without death, you can't have life, right? They kind of go hand in hand. So anyway, investigations, criminal activity, research, dealing with themes of life and death and sex and other people's money, debts, taxes. Should be weird for all of that stuff. And on Halloween, we have the moon in Aquarius, which is interesting. Aquarius being the sign of the airwaves, of the literal airwaves, the radio waves, and the mental telepathy waves. So the radar could be amped up quite a bit with that. But also, when we talk about Aquarius, we're talking about the internet, anything that has to do with technology, social media, and Elon Musk buying Twitter, and everyone is just, it's so funny, like all the rude memes, everyone is just saying what they want to say, which they felt like they couldn't say before because there was censorship. So with Saturn in Aquarius, we've had a lot of governmental censorship, rules, regulations, blockages, deplatforming. Now, Saturn has been retrograde and went direct last Sunday. So there was a review of certain things and kind of a focus on the way the court of public opinion will work to restrict people. And also, what did we find out? That our government was actually working with big tech to censor people on social media. So this is the Saturn in Aquarius, social media, Saturn in government, restrictions. I expect that this week that's going to come up. And that's been something that Elon Musk has talked a lot about, and how he didn't like people being deplatformed, and there was no free speech. And we've seen all of that. It's all coming out now. All the stuff that people were canceled for is now coming out as fact. And I'm hesitant to really think that it's all gonna be I don't know, rainbows and unicorns now, because even he said whatever he's gonna do is gonna piss off the left and it's gonna piss off the right. So what comes with that? What's gonna piss off the right? I'll tell you right now. He wants everybody to verify their identity, which I understand that, but do I want to give out my personal credentials for the quote greater good of Twitter, let's say, right? Because that's very Aquarian. Aquarian is groupthink. It's the things that, we think of doing, like for what what is for the collective, right? The greater good. But that's the dark Aquarian where, we get into like fascism, that kind of stuff. So, that should be interesting one day. And we've got the moon in Aquarius is squaring Mercury. So Mercury is triggering the eclipse. Because it went over the eclipse degree of 2 degrees of Scorpio. That was the eclipse. So there's going to be something that comes out that is concerning the collective. That's Aquarius. The moon also is the collective. Wherever the moon is, that's the collective mood. And there could be some kind of secrets coming out because that's Scorpio. Information that was hidden with the eclipse, because that's the eclipse degree. There will be some kind of communication. Or there could be ghosting. Because Mercury in Scorpio could just be kind of stewing about something. That's a very Scorpio thing. In the mind, kind of ruminating or not speaking, because Scorpio is secretive and Mercury is speaking, right? So then the moon in Aquarius is like a deafening silence, so this can be, the concept of like no answer is an answer. It's kind of like that thing where you invite somebody over and they're all like, yeah, let's do it. Okay, let me know, like, this weekend I'm free. Let me know when you're free. And then crickets. They don't answer. Well, it's because either the focus is elsewhere or it's just not important to them. They got something else going on. No answer is an answer. You don't hear back from somebody. It's not, like that is an answer. But it's kind of a sucky answer because really you should talk back and say, hey, I'm busy, or I don't know what I'm doing, or I just want to stay home and melt into my couch. But whatever. So I wonder, sounds interesting, could be tech related, could be internet related. This really looks like hacking, spying, because that's definitely a Scorpio Aquarius sort of thing. So let's see what's going on with that. But in the background, we've got Jupiter that moved into Pisces last week. We've got, it's making still kind of a square. It's a wide degree orb, but it's a square to Mars. So actions, motives, communications could be like a little bit off. And Mars is also still making an inconjunct, which is an awkward aspect to that Pluto. Pluto rules Scorpio. Scorpio rules secrets, control issues, manipulations. Have to deal with governments because it's in Scorpio. Capricorn. So there are actions being taken by people that might come from out of left field. There might be adjustments that we have to make based on action or inaction. Let's just see what comes up. Watch what comes up in the moon earlier, maybe like 8 hours, early morning. So let's say what's going on between Monday into Tuesday that could be manipulative or obsessive. As I have noticed like a lot of mental sort of obsession and drive, because Mars is drive in Gemini is mental and communicative, but it's making such an awkward aspect to that Pluto there. It's kind of like, what is underlying that like drive towards something, or the things that people are saying and the motives. Watch what comes out now also with Jupiter and Pisces, because there's a lot of propaganda in media. We're talking about Jupiter, that's propaganda. So there's secrets coming out. Like if you really dig for it and just don't necessarily focus on what the official story or narrative is, there are stuff going on behind the scenes. If you really look, you will find what's going on. So there's definitely a need to control with Pluto. It's also making a sextile to Jupiter. Mind you, this is going on always. So Jupiter increases, and in Pisces, it wants to obfuscate. So there is definitely a spin going on here with all this propaganda stuff. You will see a lot of propaganda. Watch what the narrative is and always ask, what is the motive? What is the motive? What is the point? Why are these actions being taken? Why are these things being said? What is it that we're supposed to or expected to react? How we're supposed to react if someone is manipulating and spinning, trying to control the situation? That's something that you want to look at right now with this, with the Scorpio energy, because there's motive. It's like investigations, you know, in a crime case. There's the who, what, where, when, and why. Good things to always ask yourself when you're observing a situation and you've got some kind of issue going on. So, with the moon in Aquarius, I know I have the moon in my moon is in Aquarius. It's very detached, it's very analytical. It's a little cool or cold sometimes, aloof, but that's because Aquarius stands back and takes a very detached view. It's not emotion. It's not that we don't have emotions, it's that we put the emotion aside and take things more from a logical sort of Dr. Spock perspective. So that's what we're dealing with on Monday. I mean, as far as like whatever Halloween festivities are going on, I don't know. I don't know, because that's a square from the moon. The moon is in Aquarius, that's group things. And a square would be somewhat frictional, or maybe it might be difficult to get together with people in groups. Maybe, I don't know, maybe feeling alienated from the group. That's very much a Aquarius moon. You know, there's the tribe that we vibe with. Sometimes we're a tribe of one. All right, moving on. Tuesday, November 1st. So it's interesting how we go from a 1 today to a 2 tomorrow. And then Tuesday, we're back to a 9, because November is 2. The 1st is a 1, so that's 3. 2022 is a 6, so that's 9. Really interesting. Check and see how that works out. All right, Tuesday, moon is in Aquarius, it's squaring the nodes. So, you know, maybe there's something that's going on on Monday related to groups, associations, the internet, the collective, that we find out secrets, information, stuff coming up from research, all that Scorpio stuff, which is sort of putting us in the crossroads of the nodes, the North and South node here. You know, the Taurus, between Taurus and Scorpio, we've got Aquarius. And Aquarius stands there and says, well, what's the situation here? We have two sides. We have on one side the material, on the other side the emotional, and all of this is weighted more towards the emotional, the Scorpio, the depth, the psychological, the processing of our relationships and some kind of information that's coming out that maybe some people wanted to stay hidden. I'm thinking about the issue that came up, the event that occurred with Nancy Pelosi's husband. A lot of people don't realize that there's more to that story. And if you dig around, Scorpio, you will see that the details are not matching up with what the mainstream narrative, although it's starting to slip out a little bit what's going on. I won't go into it. But that will be a developing situation because I did look at her chart and she's got Venus, Mars, and Uranus all conjunct, basically, just a few degrees away from where Uranus is right now in Taurus. So this lunar eclipse that's coming up is going to be kaplowy for her, whatever happens, and it will be related to the stuff that went down with her husband. There's more to this story. It's coming out. You might not hear it on CNN, but you will hear it. And you will find the details out there if you choose to be a Scorpio and figure out. So we're at the halfway point. There's something big coming out. We have to go through the test of Saturn first, because let's say in this circumstance, Saturn in Aquarius has been the throttle on what you could say on social media, or what the narrative has been and where they want certain, it's been spinning in a certain direction, and like you can't go past this point, you can't say this anymore. That is all getting busted apart with this lunar eclipse, because Uranus rules Aquarius. We have the Saturn and Uranus squaring off, which is Saturn the past and the status quo, the ruling elite, or whatever, however you want to term it, the current system, trying to create the new Aquarian system and put in more restrictions. And then we have Uranus and Taurus that wants to just blow out all restriction and rebellion, rebellion. So there will be a rebellion in some way, shape, or form happening. And the backlash against this Saturn that's been trying to throttle certain things, let's say, having to do with freedom, having to do with innovation, technology, the internet, social media. Should be quite interesting. So that's Tuesday, Aquarius, and there will be some sort of reckoning or restriction or challenge or obstacle or slowdown, with Aquarius and Uranus and Saturn being there. There has been actually a lot of hacking going on that I've seen. Infiltration, talking about backdoors and software, access to information that maybe should be private, and who has access to information. Those things will be coming up this week. All right, so yeah, there's a crossroads. Anytime we have a square, and over Monday, Tuesday, the moon is going to make a square to Mercury, the sun, and Venus. It's showing us something about our psyche, our relationships, things that we didn't maybe want to look at or that were there all the time, but were not necessarily in our face. They could be in our face right now. We'll be talking about taxes and new tax laws, perhaps, coming up next year. Wednesday, we're at 3 on November 2nd, and the moon still in Aquarius for the early part of the day, but towards the end, we conjunct the asteroid Vesta. Vesta has to do with devotion, what we are committed to, passionate about, our values that we have to uphold. And in Aquarius, it is about freedom, and it is about investing, because I always think of Vesta, investing, what we are investing in, and the groups of people that we associate ourselves with. In Aquarius, again, it's friends. Who are our friends? Who are we investing in? Where do our loyalties lie? Earlier, before that, the moon, when the moon conjuncts Vesta, it's going to make a trine, supportive aspect to Mars and Gemini. And that's definitely wanting to communicate or wanting to go back, because Mars retrograde reverse, right? So wanting to go back and redo something, restate something, or maybe communicate when we should have before, but we didn't, and take action perhaps on things that we are invested in. So it's time to reinvest in things that we're dedicated to, that we're passionate about. Also Vesta, because Vesta is named for the Greek goddess Vesta, which in her temple, it was the Vestal virgins who tended to the fire of Vesta and dedicated their lives to the temple, and they were not allowed to let the fire go out. Like, that was a big deal. So it is about home and hearth and keeping the home fires burning. So it's that theme also that can come up about groups of women, because Vesta has to do with sororities, groups of women, I don't know, nuns, anything having to do with women in groups of friends, and investments and loyalties, and taking action and communication, perhaps going back and finding some things. So for the earlier part on Wednesday, we're in Aquarius moon. Then we move into Pisces, which is a little bit more, it's a little softer. It's not so cerebral as Aquarius. It's more emotional because it's water, and we're starting to have the moon make a trine aspect to connect to Mercury in Aquarius, Mercury in Scorpio. So there is an increase in being able to tap into our emotions, to understand the emotional, psychic component, intuitive component, because Pisces moon is very sensitive. So whatever I was talking about earlier about this whole thing about communication and feeling and being able to communicate with spirit, God, and prayer, and getting into that space of really tapping into our own intuition and operating, from our spirit and emotional sensitivities, will be very, very sensitive and open emotionally, psychically. So be aware of what you're exposing yourself to. If it's not, of a high vibration, positive, loving vibration, people, because with Scorpio and Pisces energy mixed together, there can be an influence also with drugs and alcohol. People will be very sensitive to substances at this time. So just be aware of that. But there is definitely an emotional need to connect and to be intimate, and to really go to a deeper level, even if it's not like a physical relationship. Our friendships, our associations, we might just find ourselves really wanting to go to that more emotional and creative side and maybe open up more. It's just that we have to be careful of who we're opening up to. And if the person does not have good intentions, we could be in danger. Anyway, so okay, so the third, that would be Thursday, right? I'm losing track here. Yeah, Thursday. So they're at a really, yeah, we went back to 9, 1. Oh my God. Okay, so 6, 5, 2. Okay, so the second was the 1. Yeah, the first was the 9, second was the 1, third is the 2. So, right, Moon Pisces still on a Thursday. Definitely feeling that need for some kind of release, because the sun is moving towards the south node, Venus is at the south node. So things are coming up from the past. People from the past, people are passing. We may feel a little bit more likely to forgive things from the past with Pisces. We might be feeling a little bit more compassion. Our boundaries may not be all that tight. So be aware of that. Be self-aware. But if you got someone around you that is just like that you really trust, people that you trust, this is great for connecting on a spiritual level, on a creative level. This Pisces is very creative. You can definitely go like really out there when it comes to the emotions and sensitivity and the creativity. So that's really cool. Let's do that. But there is, as far as the greater collective goes, there is some kind of really sensitive emotional component here to whatever is happening. If it's not happening to you, you may be observing it or you're hearing about things on the news. It can have to do with artists, people's relationships. There could be some like really big stuff coming out about people, about their past, about their relationships. So it's kind of like you're either dealing with it on an internal level or we're experiencing it around us, observing it. But the moon is very sensitive. They're in Pisces. Until I can see what the declinations are looking like. Because today the moon is way out of bounds. It's like at 27 south. So it's very introspective, introverted, because it's introverted or introvert versive. I don't know, is that a word? Because it's southern declination, I like to look at that as being more internal than external. And it's still out of bounds on Monday, Tuesday, it's starting to come back down. By Wednesday. All right, okay. By Friday, all right, here's where it starts to get tricky. So if there has been any issues around drugs and alcohol and overconsumption of substances, of toxins, this is where if we're not in control of these things, it can cause some issues. This is where you're going to have to be careful driving. Because even if you're not on something, other people might be. And again, stuff that people are on regularly that might cause them to be a little distracted or impaired will be more so. Either they're taking more or they're just more sensitive. Be super careful around people, driving, machineries, when it comes to personal interactions and anger issues going on under the surface. They come up with this Pisces moon. Pisces kind of feels sometimes like a victim and can project things onto other people. It's the kind of thing where, like, if somebody's having an issue, right, and they don't have anybody to interact with, but then they get in line at Starbucks and they pick a fight with the clerk. The cashier, that kind of thing. But be careful, because we've got Jupiter now here in Pisces, and it's amplifying things, it's expanding things that are Pisces related, right? So yes, there's a lot of spirituality and religion, philosophy, and compassion, forgiveness, all of that stuff is definitely coming up. Our beliefs, our faith, right? But we have to look at where we might have been overly optimistic, or having faith in something that had no standing merit, or putting action into things that were just misguided action. We could be very inspired to act at the same time. It all really depends on what's going on here with this Scorpio stuff, I really have to say. But it should be kind of interesting. But again, I really feel like with the Mars being out of bounds and retrograde now, because it just went retrograde today, the 30th. So we have not seen this level of great yet. That Mars is kind of hinted at. I've seen a lot of aggressive behavior and just like really impulsive. And that is going to be amped up on the floor. So that's Friday. And that's the 6th. 6 here. I can't remember shit. Wait. No. Yeah, that's 3. Okay, so 3, that's me, you, and the other guy, the other person, the third party situation, the interference. I also look at it like me and you and the third thing that is created by our shared energy. Or, you know, something starts with us, we build as we go along, right? We add things, so we're at a 3. 3, 6, and 9 are the numbers of manifestation. Tesla, apparently, I know people talk about this, how he was obsessed with 3, 6, 9, and said if you understood the power of 3, 6, and 9, you would understand the secrets of the universe. But I think if you observe certain things and you want to know what's going on and what's going to come next, you look at the 3rd, the 6th, and the 9th day to see how things are progressing. You could see where the next thing is going to go. How else could you use that? Taking action on the 3rd, the 6th, and the 9th day? I don't know. Check it out. Let me know how it works. I'm like, I can't keep track, but I can observe. I do keep track, actually, of certain things. So, yeah, we've got a sextile to Pluto. Perhaps we are getting a handle on whatever the power or obsession or manipulation that's going on, or giving our power away. That could be a Pisces thing. And with the aspect to Pluto, we really do want to look at where we're unconsciously giving our power away, because we have to look here at Pluto, right? Because it's ruling all of these Scorpio planets here. The Mercury, Sun, South Node, Venus. We got to get rid of something. We got to release something. We got to look at something from the past. And there could be deep darkies coming up, right? We could be really looking at victims and victimhood, and this idea of what it means to have a victim mindset. For me. Yeah, I don't know. This also could have to do something with legal stuff and victims and lawsuits, because we're dealing with Jupiter here. But late in the day, the moon goes into Aries, and then it really doesn't make much major aspects of note until the next day, Saturday, where the moon is conjunct to Chiron and in conjunct to the Scorpio stuff. So there's something about Aries, the individual rights and identity that is being affected by whatever's going on here in Scorpio. So it looks kind of hairy here, like there might be something around finances, like that we need to personal finance that we need to adjust. Really maybe looking at our self, our identity, our selfhood, and our who we are as an independent, sovereign individual versus our secrets, our private life, our intimacy, and our relationships. There is some kind of wound because we've got Chiron, or healing that needs to take place with the individual when it comes to shared resources, finances, relationships, privacy, secrecy, our information, our communications. This probably will have a lot to do with data, privacy, secrecy, if it's not a personal issue. People's personal information being talked about or leaked. So, interpersonal stuff, there could be a lot of gossip or hearing things, and it can be quite salacious. Because I do know that the asteroid Salacia, which is around 6, 7 Aries. So if you have any planets at around 6, 7 Aries, 5, 6, 7 Aries roughly, you may have been affected by salaciousness, salacious, salty talk, being salty, having a salty attitude, being the target of salaciousness. I've seen that with this asteroid. I've seen it be affected that way. When that asteroid was being highlighted by Jupiter, good way to find out what the themes are of an asteroid. When there's a planet transiting that asteroid, that's when you're going to see the themes of that asteroid come up. And what I saw was the most salacious stuff. Just looking at the media, celebrity gossip. So, Salacia, something salacious is coming out, and Scorpio loves it. Scorpio is definitely here for that. So, something salacious, perhaps the moon triggers something, but it would be something really that probably came up when Jupiter was there. So, it could be some kind of residual stuff that you thought was resolved, something that maybe you heard about earlier in the year when Jupiter was there, but it somehow was managed to be swept under the rug. That could be coming back around for sure, because all this Scorpio stuff is divvying up the bodies, and it's something painful. And it's something about, the ego and the selfhood and the masculine also. That Chiron in by Aries has been about the healing the identity and healing the masculine, because Aries is masculine sign. It's ruled by Mars. Mars represents men. It's masculine in the fact that it's yang, right? So it's our self-confidence, how we assert ourselves, how we take action. So there's something coming up around that. And it's painful because it's the wound, it's still healing, Maybe we see how far we've come. Maybe we're getting ready to release that thing, because just days before, when um, yeah, I didn't really mention that. I didn't really point that out exactly. So the second into the third, that's when Venus is going to be directly on the south node. So it's either lost when it comes to women, relationships, finances, because it's Venus, and the south node, it's a loss, something we have to release, or it's a painful loss because that Chiron here making an inconjunct, it's uncomfortable, it's not happy. So maybe it's budget, maybe it's, relational, friendship, partnership, whatever, but it's building. There is, a need for sensitivity, a need for compassion. And then on the fifth, it's not comfortable, because whatever Venus brought up when it crossed the south node, the sun is going to highlight that on the fifth. So let's see. I always lose track. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Yeah, so that's Saturday. The sun is on the south node, so it's all about it's all about releasing, and it is shining a light on whatever gunk, psychic garbage, mental and emotional crap that needs to be released. Anything having to do with attachments that are not good for us. It's Scorpio, so it is addictions, and people are addicted to many different things. Addicted to sex, addicted to drugs, addicted to relationships, attached. It's an attachment issue. And it is the realization that I myself, by myself, am okay, and I am enough, and I don't need really other people's money, love, approval, but I do. But it is to the degree that I'm attached to it. And I don't know how attached I am until I lose it. So, very interesting. It can be very embarrassing if it's playing out in public. Nancy. Oh, listen. I don't have any compassion for these people, because I don't really feel like whatever. I'm not gonna bring my political stuff up, but you know what? I have compassion for people who have compassion for me. I am looking out for the best interests of the people who are looking out for my best interests. That's not the case. So we watch it play out. And what happens will be karmic, because we're in between eclipses. What happens during eclipses is karmic. It's fateful. It's meant to happen. It's cause and effect. It's this thing is done. It's over. It's dead. You can't go into the future prosperous, dragging a dead corpse with you. Okay, so if that's an attitude, a relationship, an attachment, an addiction, whatever it is, it needs to die. This is an ego death, and this can be scandalous and embarrassing for someone. Imagine who that would be. Alrighty, Sunday, November 6th. This is just before the full moon eclipse, the November election, November 8th, full moon eclipse happening on the election. It's gonna be a shit show. Shit show. I'm really interested to see what's going to happen because I think for the first time in a long time, the filter is off. I feel like the restrictions that we've had to understanding and being able to see the whole picture, to being able to communicate about things in a way that is productive and healthy and necessary, we've been throttled. And I think that this is all about to come to a head. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what this is going to be. But I did tell you that Nancy's Venus, Mars, and Uranus are going to be affected by this eclipse. So her Venus and her Mars, that's her masculine and her feminine. That's her relationships. That's her, that's kind of a magnetic attractor when it comes to aspects in a chart, because your will is fused with your desire and what you're attracting. It's very very magnetic. Those people are very charismatic that have that in their chart, but they have a way of magically attracting certain things. And with Uranus, it's going to be attracting regardless. And this, I think this will probably be attracting attention that she does not want. And it's a lunar eclipse, so something's going to come to a head and be exposed. We already know what happened with the solar eclipse, and her husband is all going to get like blown. All right, so Sunday, November 6th, we've got the moon in Aries. It makes a sextile to Saturn, which is, maturity and restraint, but it's also having come to a place where who is creating the structure, right? Because Aquarius is the collective, and Saturn is authority, but it's our own personal authority, right? So our, creating, there's a structure being created here, let's say, within the collective, and there is a test, there is a test, an obstacle, but it's also our own boundaries, right? And it's personal, and creating our own personal structure and using things for ourselves, right? And expressing our emotions. And the moon making a sextile to Mars has got people riled up. There's something here that's got people riled up, but it's all good, right? Because it's going to come up against Pluto, and it's going to be a push between the personal individual and the existing authority structure, right? Or the structures in our life that are being transformed, our own personal power. So there is a lot of power in words and action, right? Everything is about our motives, our actions, and our words. Do they line up? Are we speaking truth to power? And how are we asserting ourselves, right? Are we being fair, mature, and wise with Saturn? I think we are. I think we say, well, you know, I know how far I can take it. And I know, when I'm in integrity and when I'm out of integrity. And okay, I have self-governed, I have self-checked, and now I'm gonna twist this spot up. This is great. I'll be recording that day, so I'll be recounting. Well, that weekend. Maybe Saturday, maybe Sunday, I don't know. So I'll be recounting the events of the week and what actually happened. So that'll be fun. That'll be interesting. The moon in Aries is definitely about the individual. It is about a beginning, because Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. So something new is being beginning for the individual, for the independent people, fiery, taking action and speaking. But be careful with that Mars, because Mars out of bounds in retrograde. All right, dig this. Now that Mars is retrograde from October 30th until January, the end of January. Oh, my calendar here. But let's just say a long time. More than a week, more than a month, a couple of months. It's January. We may regret our actions and our words during this time, or we may want to go back and re-examine or have to redo certain things that we are starting, or that we are anything having to do with communications, whether it's writing, speaking, contracts, our thoughts and our ideas and plans, things that we want to take action on. It's being held back because in some ways we are having to sort of go back to the past, redo things, re-examine things while we're having the retrograde. But when it goes forward, if we make any mistakes, if we're not careful, if we're not mindful of that Mars square to Neptune, right? Neptune is also very strong. It's retrograde also. So some things are going to have to be redone, and we are going to see things differently. When Mars goes forward and starts to go back through these degrees, I believe it goes retrograde all the way to 6. I think that's the shadow, 6 to 26, roughly. So got a while here, folks, to watch your step, to examine your motives, examine the motives of other people, look at power struggles, power structures, obsessiveness, addictions, fear. A lot of fear that comes up with Pluto and Capricorn. Capricorn is old age, it's death. So Pluto and Capricorn is taking a lot of the old times with it. Or we are feeling our age, being more aware of, the death and life and death cycles. And with Mars being in conjunct, uncomfortable, having to, reevaluate something we've said, we've done, where do we go before we move forward. Also dealing with a lot of anxiety, ADD, ADHD, obsessive nervousness with Mars and Gemini, very impulsive. So those are things to watch for. And maybe we have to, with the Mars in conjunct to Pluto, maybe we have to look at where we need to make more mature decisions, where we have to deal with our shadow, that's Pluto, Scorpio, our fears, our attitudes around death, and all those things that are unknown, right? Or the fear of societal collapse, because that's the Pluto in Capricorn. You know, the United States is having its Pluto return. So basically, when Declaration of Independence is signed, Pluto was at this degree where it's at right now. And it has not returned here since then. So this is the ending completely of the United States as we know it. But we are here to create a new structure. It's not going to just end, right? It's not to just solve, like it looks like it's going to blow up and dissolve into chaos, but really, it's not. It's a death transformation. Then death happens, right? It's transmutation from one state of being to another. So all of those things are things that we're just going to have to grapple with, having to deal with what to do, being uncertain, what actions to take, you know, and the mental anxiety or restlessness that goes along with all of that, as well as the chitter chatter in our head and from other people. You know, we might find it hard to listen to people who go on and on and on and on and on about negative stuff, or in like a mental loop about the same thing, or obsessively trying to control things. That might get on people's skin during this time. So I think that wraps it up. That's the week of October 31st through November 6th, 2022. And thank you all for joining me. If you are interested in booking a personal reading, you should email me at astrolunachick@gmail.com. Find me on the social medias. I'm pretty much everywhere that I can make an account. I don't always use all of them, but I'm on the mains, the Facebook, the Twitter, the Instagram. So you can personally message me, follow me, like, subscribe, whatever. YouTube also, thank you for all the likes and subscribes. You guys are phenomenal. Keep up the good work. And thank you for sharing it also, because I'm still trying to grow my channel. So I do appreciate all the support from those who are enjoying the show, benefiting from it. Again, you can hear my show. The replay of it is always running throughout the week on etalk.tv. You haven't been over there, check it out. And that's it for me today. So obviously, enjoy your week, stay safe, and don't let the eclipses get you. Ciao, babies. Bye-bye.